Hello, everyone, and welcome to the episode. Already.
Really?
Can't even get through the first half of the first sentence. All right, let me try this again.
Edit.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of The Lifting for Tuesday, June 12th, 2018. I am Joanna Michaels, and I am here today with my co-host, Katrina Schaff.
Hi, everyone.
And Christopher Stephen Jacobs.
Hello.
And of course, we thank you all for joining us now and in the future. Tonight, we are going to explore the concept of conjuring, what it is and what it isn't. But first, let's have our opening affirmation and blessing. And Katrina, would you do that for us? And then you go ahead and start us off on the show.
I am are two of the most powerful words. It is what you put after them that creates your reality. Good evening, everyone. When I think of the word conjure, I think of a definition most commonly associated with it. It means to invoke a spell, to bring about an effect through magic, to command the devil or spirit through an invocation or spell, to practice magic, or to conspire. When I think of the word conjuring, I think of witches stirring their brew in a black cauldron, conjuring up a soup of unpleasant events for someone or someplace. Neither the definition nor my thought of witches is really positive, so I prefer not to use the word conjure. In place of that word, I would use the word create. We do not want to conjure because it has negative connotations. On the other hand, to create and to co-create is what we should be doing. The choice of your words and the intention of your energy determines the direction of your creation. Words are just words, and conversations are just conversations, unless your intention is otherwise. Putting passion and strong intent behind your words can create something positive, and you can put into motion something also very negative. Just remember, you are responsible for what you create, both good and bad. If you are ridding yourself of a negative thought, reliving an event that you let go of, or you're remembering a person or non-person entity that was detrimental to you and or frightening, just remember you cannot recreate this event or bring back anyone or an exorcised demon because you cannot recreate something just by talking about it or thinking of it. Bad beings or things that happen to us are very hard to forget. We say we release them, but they still show up in our thoughts. They come up in your mind, just reflect on them and then let them go. Do not dwell on something that has already been dealt with. Do not ponder on the details. Do not relive it with strong emotions or think if you could do it all again, you could change it somehow. Revisiting these events and people can be very harmful to you. With enough passion and energy, you might not bring back the same thing, but you certainly could stir up something very similar. Do not give negativity any of your power. Remember, the darkness relies on you to help them conjure up negativity. They need you, so don't fall for it. Darkness also likes people in numbers to put forth negative intentions. The more, the merrier. Use your positive power to create the things you want and need in your life. Do not waste your time on past issues that are over and relive things that have already been resolved. You cannot create something negative unless that is your purpose in the first place. You know, we all get mad, frustrated, upset with another person or issue, and so on. How each person deals with their anger is handled differently. Just because you lose your temper and say and do things that you probably will regret much sooner than later, does not mean that your words said with anger behind them will cause harm to your source of that anger or to you. Thinking and saying things without intent is just a form of venting. Some people just have to relieve their stress and problems by stating or yelling about an issue and then just moving on. Cursing, yelling, stomping, or whatever it takes to let something go is not completely wrong, as long as it is not harmful to someone else or to you. Just do not let it become violent to you or anyone else, or do not let it ever become physical. Is this mature? Probably not. And if it helps release your emotions, then go for it. Hopefully, as you learn about yourself in more depth, you will take your emotions, such as anger, your words and actions, and learn to vent them in ways that are not so over the top. Some people exercise, cook, listen to music, or even write the words they are feeling down on a piece of paper, and then they shred them. There are many ways to change behavior. You just have to be willing to try other methods. Words and how you use them really do count, though. Saying a phrase like, "I hate that person and I wish they would disappear forever," could cause you to create something negative to happen towards that person if you sincerely and intensely mean it. It could also have some repercussions that could affect you personally. Things we put out, both good and bad, usually come back and affect us in some way. If you did not mean it, don't worry, nothing will happen. You cannot make anything happen unless it's backed with intent. To be less negative in your words, you could have said, "I do not like this person. I do not want them in my life anymore." It is not as negative or dramatic, but you still state how you feel, and that's perfectly okay. To want someone no longer in your life is okay, but wanting them to disappear from the face of the earth is not okay. So eliminate the word conjure and conjuring from your vocabulary unless it is being used in a positive way. Just substitute the word create or creating in place of conjure and conjuring. It makes what you say softer, nicer, and when you are angry, the word create or creating may actually change what you're about to say or vent about. Words count, so use the ones that at the end of the day make you feel good about yourself. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, that was very good. Now we will go on to my section where I will talk about how some things are conjured. So let's go on. This would be conjuring within the New Age community. And please, no hate mail over this, what I'm about to say. There are a couple of things that I wish to point out about the New Age community's perception of conjuring. For one, I have noticed time and again that New Agers love to say that thinking or saying a demon's name, negative entity's name, or even mentioning a negative force of some sort, or not so good event, will instantly conjure said beings or recreate certain events. This is not necessarily true. While focusing heavily on something will co-create it, it is not, and I will repeat, not an instantaneous event. There are people in this world afraid to think or speak because they feel it will conjure or incur darkness. There is no difference here than the Christian mindset of the same type. You've either sinned, quote unquote, and will go to hell, or with the New Agers, you're generating bad karma for yourself and dragging others down with you. They will even feel if they listen to anyone that is trying to help as a form of conjuring as well. And this, my friends, is one of the greatest psyopses of all time. Fear of your very own self or thoughts. The second part of this is that if someone, usually within the New Ager crowd, has a negative thought, that they are somehow unbalanced. They feel that if they are not in love and light 100% of the time, that they will incur evil, when in fact, an evil force has already been conjured and gotten them into this very point. They have even been known to constantly correct anyone else that is actually more balanced emotionally, thinking that that person's frustration will somehow conjure a demon or evil force. Some of them may even force an indifferent or neutral state within a household or on a family member, thinking that that family member's thoughts or words are going to conjure evil deeds or energies, when in fact one must do their inner work and work through what is bothering them. In this way, a true neutral state is earned and not forced. Just be an authentic person. Now, is this me venting or ranting about the New Age crowd? Maybe a bit. I've only gotten started, but I am not wanting to cause a for and against. But there are some things that must be said, and this was one of them. So, Joanna?
Yeah, so I wanted to stress that it really is our understanding that much effort has gone into confusing everyone about the concept of conjuring. So I do want to pull in some definitions off the internet and some other things I've found, because I always like to try and figure out, how did we get to this point? So I actually did look up the words conjure. So conjure is a verb, and there's some very interesting things said about this. And let me just read you a few of the small definitions. So number one, call upon. And again, it says call upon, and in parentheses, a spirit or ghost to appear by means of a magical ritual. And using that in a sentence, they hope to conjure up the spirit of the dead friend. Okay, one definition. Definition number two, to make something appear unexpectedly or seemingly from nowhere as if by magic. And in this instance, Anne conjured up a most delicious homemade stew. Another one is to call, and then in parentheses they said, an image to mind. In the sentence, she had forgotten how to conjure up the image of her mother's face. And a fourth one, dealing with a word or a sound or a smell, to cause someone to feel or think something. And in a sentence, one scent can conjure up a childhood summer besides a lake, a memory. And then another definition is basically to implore, and in parentheses, someone to do something. Now, I think this last one, to implore someone to do something, has a lot of the imagery regarding witches, spells, and things like that. So what is conjuring? So conjuring is the performance of tricks that are seemingly magical, typically involving sleight of hand. So I find that interesting that in this kind of online dictionary definition of the word conjuring, that the word tricks is used. I think that's just interesting, because from what we know, some pretty harmful things can occur by conjuring, much more than just a trick, let's say. But I guess I'm just seeing the knowledge base of the person who wrote the definition. Now here in the noted definitions of conjuring I just mentioned, and like Katrina stated, there is not a particular thought as to if the meaning of conjure is benevolent or malevolent in nature. So where did we get that? Where did we come up with conjuring that is so, and it usually is malevolent and negative, because in the definitions there is no statement of right or wrong. So, and then how were we influenced to believe that this is so bad? Well, I need to bring up again the actual one book that is prevalent in most of our psyche. Again, whether we realize it or not, this is the oldest of books, the first one mass produced, that many in history read first and was influenced by before writing their own pieces of work, and that is the Bible. And what I need to tell you is that when I looked up in the Bible all of the references to be conjure or conjuring, I have to tell you that it was never used in a benevolent context. So let me just read you a few examples. From Samuel, it says, "Then Saul disguised himself by putting on others' clothes, and went, he and 2 men with him, and they came to the woman by night. And he said, 'Conjure up for me, please, and bring up for me whom I shall name to you.'" So that's one instance of where conjure is used. Another one in another section says, "He passed his son through the fire and practiced divination and omen reading. He set up a ritual pit to conjure up underworld spirits and appointed magicians to supervise it. He did a great amount of evil in the sight of the Lord, provoking him to anger." So there are several others that have been in here that were also about conjuring up spirits and negativity. So let me see if I can read just another sample. Again, so Saul decided, because he was unfaithful to the Lord and did not obey the Lord's instruction, he even tried to conjure up underworld spirits. And so time and time again, in the Bible, in the first book that most people think medieval times, where they actually read this and got their understanding of the world and good versus evil, it was always a negative context to conjuring. They even refer to the Egyptians in Isaiah, where they say the Egyptians will panic and I will confuse their strategy. They will seek guidance from the idols and from the spirits of the dead, from the pits used to conjure up underworld spirits, and from the magicians. So it's very, very interesting, I think, when you actually try to look back to see, where did we get our feelings about this? And we cannot ignore the very first book that was ever published. So remember, like I said, medieval times, the inventing of the printing press, and the first mass-produced book. Okay, I would love to say that, in my opinion, this just is accidental, but I don't think so. I think printing the Bible, the first mass-produced book for people to read, was actually a part of the plan by darkness to give them a sense of how life really is. And again, people of those times were actually enamored in the religious beliefs and took a lot of these writings as literal. So if they were indoctrinated into these understandings and the context given, then they applied them to what they did. It's just how things work. And until someone relooks at what occurred and revisits understandings, it just remains the same. Now, I don't want to say that now I actually do want to say that I have had plenty of visions of conjuring negativity, or I guess in the Bible it would be underworld spirits, in the past few years. And what I have seen is extremely purposeful, with focused intent to bring in negative entities to do the bidding of the conjurers. And this is not, again, me reviewing the past, but is very present currently. So since we're talking about conjuring, I'm going to share. Now, I do not want you to believe that a single person cannot conjure negativity, but I have to say, what I have been viewing, my education and understanding of this, has been viewing the organized, purposeful actions of a group. At times, but actually rarely, a single person is guiding the group and then utilizes the energy gained to actually do what they want in a nefarious way, potentially unknown to the other members of the group. Here, the group members have been deceived into thinking they are doing something good. But energy is energy. And if the leader knows how to take the energy and with strong intent can mold it to do what they, with their will, with their own will, then it occurs. So this is where I caution anyone out there involved with the sharing of energies to put out the intent of benevolence only. Even if you're only doing that in mind, take control of your energies. If you only want it for benevolence, you better put that intent out there that it can only be used for benevolence, or someone else could potentially use it. What I have seen a lot of recently is the actual darkness conjuring, and they're using humans again for this conjuring, the cabal and others to do their bidding. This has actually involved, believe it or not, large cauldron type pools with multiple people around. I was confused in the beginning to what fluid was in these kind of pools, but it was dark, and I was told it was a pool with blackish nanotechnology within it. Unfortunately, there's a requirement for using some sort of sacrifice, an adult, child, or animal seemed to always be required to begin these types of ceremonies. Then as the intention and energy built up, things would literally come out and up and out of the pool. And from what we understand, sometimes a doorway was open to to either other worlds or pockets that housed entities that were trapped there potentially, who were made to do the bidding of the negative conjurers. These cauldron facilities have been underground, on ground, and in the air. And there seems to be a battle right now to destroy them. But the darkness is not giving up and keeps trying to build them. This is actually where there is something we can all do. One day, a while back, when we put out some rosa-type rods in a waterway, Epsilon actually came through and said, "Thank you. This will prevent a cauldron from being built for quite a large area." And it was just an out-of-the-blue statement, really with no context to it, but something that kind of took us back. And then when I started to have the visions and starting to see all this, I understood it better. So when we actually ask all of you to grab crystals and rocks, and with the crystals in there, bless them and throw them into waterways, please understand you are also helping in this area as well. I have also seen groups get together where one is selected to receive a demonic entity within themselves to then do what was required. This chosen person did not survive what was to occur next. Their life force energy was given to the demonic entity. These people seem to believe that this is a spiritual mission and they are fulfilling and dying for their spiritual beliefs. And again, many or most of these people are cabal. So what was hard for me to watch was how they celebrated the person before the demonic entity entered. It just actually made me sick, and I actually felt bad for these people because they were usually young female adults. And there was nothing I could do to save them. In fact, Chris and I actually have been the targets at times. So again, it really was hard to watch, knowing that they would literally die for nothing. For the average person, there is so much misinformation out there. And this has caused a lot of paranoia about the thoughts you have. So please think on this and let go some of the fears you are having about conjuring. The goal is that we flow through our thoughts and emotions. It is good to be able to have multiple perspectives regarding a situation. This helps you to see things from others' perspectives. It's getting stuck in an emotion means that you should explore what is going on. This is how we process our world and the people in it. So if you currently hate someone, then really explore why. So there is a grace period to do this inner work, and it does not mean you will conjure an effect to the other person. But if you stay in a place for quite a while, then it can cross over into a potential of your intent, co-creating something you may not really want. But again, having feelings for a little while is just a signal to reflect. Now, this brings us to an area we have touched on, but really want to spell it out for you now. So, Chris, why don't you take it from here?
All right. Here are a few last thoughts on this subject. The first one is the conjuring of the individual. This topic is rarely touched on because most people do not believe that thoughts and words have power, let alone a belief. Think for a moment religion. Now think about people's idea of what God or a deity actually is. Now, if someone believes that Jesus is their almighty savior and that Satan is the almighty destroyer, then they are creating thought forms that others are affected by. This touches on a similar thread to what we spoke about regarding the bad effects of good intentions, but in this case, the bad effects of indoctrinated thought forms. Some ideas of what God or Source truly is falls into this category. And remember, there are negative entities out there who are happy to step in and play the role of your creation or creator. So remember this. It does not mean the entities you see are the actual being. You must discern. Conjuring of the masses. Since darker forces cannot conjure anything on their own, let alone themselves, they require human intervention, i.e. cabal or us doing their bidding. So conjuring is about thoughtful intent or co-creation. And negativity has absolutely wanted us to use the masses to conjure what they want and what they do want. Well, what do they do want? Well, it is to stay in control of all of us, but more specifically to maintain control, they want to conjure confusion, fighting, and constant disagreement or for and against. This ties into the Arconian binary network, since that is used to dumb us down so we don't realize we are being used. Unfortunately, the news is a great way to put thoughts and ideas into mass consciousness. Then false flags are used to reinforce the thoughts. So this will cause separation within society. Then the goal is that our own intent under strong emotion will co-create the existence of that thought. Also, unwitting humans conjure jinn, demons, and Draco using Ouija boards and other misused so-called magical methods. Usually people playing around. Ghost boxes can cause this as well. There is also an idea out there that attaining a peaceful world without the cabal is nothing but a pipe dream, an impossible dream, a non-existent utopia. People are so heavily programmed into believing this world is mythical and impossible that they conjure what these dark entities want, chaos and disorder. Now we're at that point in the show where I have a galactic contribution. Then we will go on to viewer questions. So I will see who actually wants to come in today. And let me see here. Isaac, did you want to? No? Oh, I thought you said before the show you wanted to do it. Okay. Who are you pointing at? Really? No, you're pointing at Balzer. Okay. That's interesting. He's never actually done this before. Unless you're just putting him on the spot. No, okay. Yeah, they have a tendency to do that. So let's see. We'll see what comes through. Okay, Balzer. Greetings, all of you. You know me as Balzer of the Bersine people. We have spoken about the complexities of words and how even a miswording can conjure the wrong thing at times, with the intent, of course, or trap certain things at times, with the intent, of course. We spoke about how the Bersine were pulled from the skies and pulled from underground and all the places they existed in their different densities to be forced into consciousness constructs, such as the skull that I inhabit and my dear one, Julepi, inhabits. But there are more complex versions of this out there that have far more complex constructs and cages, you would say, that do this. Usually these cages are made of a complex metal that humans, usually on the surface, I will throw that clue out there, do not yet possess. These particular devices can indeed capture other entities and use them for a more rotted purpose, you would say. In this, I will talk about a bit of this history, but not go completely in depth. There are beings that surround cauldrons, of course, you know this, but there are beings that surround smaller versions of these that stand up roughly about 4 feet high, and they conjure energies that fuel them and can also cage other beings on the surface. They can send conjurings at people from these particular pedestals with their own will and their own mind. But these pedestals are toxic to the very ones that actually created them because of the energies here on Earth. These pedestals and these metals are actually absorbing the Earth's energy, making these tools toxic to their creators. This environment was not meant for these winged ones, you would call them. Therefore, their own equipment can be used against them. Usually anything that creates fire. Just a clue, anything that creates water. And any pedestal out there that you know of that holds water considered holy. Another clue, in this, these pedestals can turn into something very positive because of the metal that resonates within them. They respond to human thoughts and human conjurings, you would say. This particular metal, think of it as a tuning fork. Think of how sound resonates within that tuning fork. Think of a gong. It is the same purpose. Your will and your heart space can resonate through these and cause these beings disharmony. Normally, you would not want to do such to another being, but I digress. These are the beings that keep you under oppression's thumb, or at least one of them. In this, I must state that this particular metal will eventually surface on your world in the not-too-distant future. It is 5 times stronger than your titanium metal, but it is as light as a feather. In this, you will use this to create great medical technologies as well as spacefaring technologies. But that is only after these idiots of the underworld are gone. These are the underworld spirits that you heard of in your Bible. But again, I digress. My name is Balzer, and I am of the Bersine people. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? No? No? Wait a minute, who's raising their hand? Oh, that's the gnome. Isaac says the gnome doesn't count. Okay. No, but really, do you want to say something? No, you're just being silly. Okay. I swear that gnome statue is looking at me. But anyway, we always say that the gnome statue here in the room is moving its eyes. So, nobody else? No? No. Okay. Looks like we're moving on to viewer questions and answers. So we'll get right to that.
Okay. So the first one is, can you and the Galactics discuss the types of physical symptoms a person may experience as they raise their vibration and frequency? I had remembered you mentioned some stuff on the Viking show, like twitches, headaches, and I can't recall all that you two talked about and probably need to listen to it again. I guess I'm wondering if there is a way to know the difference between them, or is there a common thread? Example, headaches, twitches, or random pulses, actual feeling of vibration, digestive issues. Can any or all of these be associated with the raising of your frequency?
Yes, actually, all of the above are symptoms of raising in frequency. Some people call it ascension symptoms, but it's a raising in frequency. Kind of like a form of the bends, you would say, like an energy form of the bends. Also, sleeping more is one of the symptoms. Sometimes hypersensitivity to light, sound, and smells. Some of the headaches and rapid emotions are caused by the bad guys, but are also attributed to raising in frequency. So it's all of the above. Some people think it's all negative because it's causing negative reactions. It's just the body adjusting. Like I said, a energy form of the bends. Think of being in the depths of the ocean and coming up too quickly. You need a pressure chamber, as it were, to do it slowly. So think of us going up very quickly, and it's causing these aches and pains. Think of it as also growing pains, as it were, going into these other densities. So we can go on to the next question.
Yeah, the only thing I'd like to add to that is I know a lot of people, when they're feeling this way, they may feel they're digressing. So I just want to let people know that going and experiencing all this, feeling like you're in a pendulum, moving all over the place, sometimes you feel like you're there, sometimes you don't know what's going on. Don't question the fact that you are descending. You're not. This is all a part of the process. Just be patient with yourself. Be patient with people that are around you because they're going through the same thing. And most people, I think, if you want a common thing, most people will say, I don't understand what's going on. I think that's probably a pretty common thought, that people may be having out there. So be patient with yourself and others right now.
And with this one, read to about there and then that part.
Okay, so the next question. The volcano in Hawaii seems to be really really a big deal. It's on the news every day, at least twice. Is this all Agartha activity or some cabal? Cobra said he was inviting a few to Agartha, but they had to expect to never return to the surface. And then anything about comments on the Jerusalem chaos.
Okay. I know for a fact the volcano in Hawaii is related to the war in Agartha and Cabal. I know people who go to Agartha tend not to come back. I have heard of very few people who are invited to Agartha. I would be very leery of invites so long as this war continues. And I'm not really bashing anybody, but be leery of Cobra, please. I brought this up a long time ago. I don't want to cause a for and against. Please be leery. There is factual information there, but there's also implanted negative information there. Again, not trying to cause any problems with Cobra again. So in this, at the very end part here about Jerusalem, this is when Trump declared Jerusalem the true capital of the Middle East. He caused more of a for and against within the area, more war to generate more energy. Also, I have been told that there is an energy collector in that area. I'm thinking the Holy Sepulchre, but don't quote me on that. I don't know. As well as a major conjuring spot there that needs the aggression energy in order to work properly. More than likely a cauldron of some sort. That's what I picked up about that.
So again, what we keep saying is that in the desperation for negativity to keep getting energy, they are going to cause controversy. They are going to cause chaos. They are going to cause things to put you in a state of anxiety, in a state of fear, in a state of anger, in a state of for and against, to collect the energies. And a lot of that is still continuing on a daily basis. Okay, next one. I am growing lion's tail and have read some great medicinal things to do with it. I'm excited about this plant. It goes by many names such as wild daga and wild hemp. I read that it has origins from South Africa and also China, but people grow it all over now. My question is, does this plant have a history dating back much further than recorded? I believe that it does. Also, what extra input from the galactics can they give me in particular that I may use this plant the best?
This was actually a very interesting channel by Isaac. He said, Isaac here, with good news about this wonderful plant species. This plant has been known to cure, quote unquote, blindness, when in fact it is reigniting the centers of the brain that are inhibited from radioactive material, such as nuclear power or passing spacecraft. The radioactivity is in all actuality harmful to your species, but this plant helps to block it and revive those who suffer from it, far more than generally believed. It was also brought here during the old wars to combat the spindly agenda, which entailed making the whole of the earth radioactive in nature. I hope this explains it all. Blessings to you all, Isaac. Oh, okay, and now we're at the end of the show, so my mother can read the last affirmation and blessing.
Anything is possible if you believe in yourself. You can create great things in life, but you first have to believe you can. All things are possible.
Well, that's the end of the show, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this particular episode. So, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Remember, we're off next week, so we'll see you in 2 weeks. Take care.
Bye-bye.